Coming up next on the Holistic Wealth Podcast.
I realized that not having owned my self-worth at the time was really why I opened the door to paying for myself and for him as well. Because, he was a young man and, when we're young, we're all dealing with insecurities and we're trying to figure ourselves out, right? But if I could do it again, if there's one thing I would say is like, from place of worth, you don't go invest in your emotions are priceless and so are the emotions of the other person. And so if at any point in time you feel that this is not right.
You're listening to the Holistic Wealth Podcast with host Keisha Blair, author of Holistic Wealth and founder of the Institute on Holistic Wealth. And now, here's your host, Keisha Blair.
Welcome to the Holistic Wealth Podcast, and I'm your host, Keisha Blair, and today we have another great episode of the podcast. I have a special guest with us today, and that's my dear friend, Natalie Rowe, and we have been friends for over 18 years, and it's been a long time coming, and I'm so glad to share her story with you today because this story just emphasizes and her message emphasizes the relationship aspects of holistic wealth, money mindset, and lots of other great issues related to self-worth and esteem and just messaging that we also get from our culture, from home, our background. So I'm so pleased to introduce Natalie today. Natalie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Keisha. It is such a pleasure to be here with you.
So I'm just going to introduce you, Natalie, for the audience, just so they get a sense of who you are. So Natalie Rowe is a certified human resources leader and holds a master's degree in economics. She is the founder and CEO of Transforming Minds International, an organization dedicated to equipping youth for their careers. She is the author of S.E.T, Proceed and Succeed in Your Career, as well as a chapter e-workbook on insightful career conversations for parents and teens. Natalie is also a financial and career coach. She's married with 3 wonderful sons, and she lives right here in the same city that I do in Ottawa, Canada. So Natalie, just in terms of our topic today that we're discussing, in terms of your story, can you just tell the audience a bit about your journey?
Thank you, Keisha. When you said we've known each other for 18 years, my eyes went, wide. I'm like, oh my goodness, time flies so fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing, but you're correct. So yes, self-worth. It has been a journey for me, a journey of discovery. And I think one of the blessings of being able to introspect and to look back is that you learn the lessons of the past and so on. And I've really been on a journey of self-worth, discovering my worth and not just knowing it, but owning it. And I've seen how that has figured into decisions I've made in the past for relationships, decisions I've made for just life decisions in general. Like I've come to realize that how you see yourself is really the command center of your life. It is from that place that you make decisions for money, relationships, finances, careers as well. And it's so very important. And I think my journey is one where, looking back, I was really blessed, had a great childhood growing up in Jamaica. And one of the things I realized as well is that, we're shaped by our culture and we're shaped by our families as well. And I was very loved and protected. But one of the things I realized is that what was missing is just a lack of affirmation. You know you're loved through acts of love and kindness, but you don't really hear it, right? In our culture, I love you, you're beautiful. That's not something that's really said a lot. Like you should know it. Don't you know that I love you? Why do I have to tell you?
Yeah.
But you find that it's very important for it to be voiced, and coming from parents and especially father figures, it's very important to be affirmed by a father figure. So, in my life, I was cared for, protected, but that was an area that was not very much of a family tradition, right? So I realized coming through the teen years as well, you have that need for affirmation, especially from a father, and you kind of get performance driven and you're like, what will please him? When will I hear that I'm pleased with you and that I love you? Maybe if I just do more and do more and do more. So you become very performance based, right?
Right.
You equate your worth to output. And you're not even realizing this, right? You're just going through the paces. So that is one aspect of it. And then comes the messages of the culture, Keisha. And it can be really something that you buy into. And certainly a couple of the struggles that I had as a teenager is growing up in a society, a post-colonial society, is what I've come to learn. There's a term for it. It's called colorism, where tones and shades of black, the lighter you are, there's a social equity, right?
Yes.
And the darker, not so much. And this is affirmed and founded. People you love, right, actually tell you these stories. I remember just growing up and being warned that, please don't waste time with your lighter skin cousins, because if you fail and they fail, they can still show up and get the job, or they can easily marry into privilege because of their lighter skin tone.
Oh, yeah.
I know, And this has been told to you because, they really care about you. It's not being told by somebody who doesn't mean you well, right?
Yes, no, absolutely. And I just wanted to chip in to say to the audience, too, that growing up in Jamaica back then, and just to give some context here, that some of the jobs, the more privileged jobs, were withheld, right, for lighter skinned people. So it was felt at that time that, yes, there was some privilege there, and that if you weren't a certain color, if you weren't a certain class, that even if you were, well-educated, bright, that, they would get preference for those jobs. So you have to work twice as hard. And even, coming to Canada, Natalie, afterwards, it was the same in terms of, and for Black women, we hear that every day. Like, you have to be twice as good. You have to work twice as hard to prove your worth.
It's insidious because then you begin to equate your worth to output, right? And performance, right? So, so with those messages and the culture, you begin to absorb that. And then there was the body aspect of it. Keisha, how Jamaica, we're really into the reggae culture and the music and everything. And I would think back at the songs in my teenage years, the number one songs in the culture was, celebrating a certain body type, or a certain skin tone. And, we all signed to it.
Yes.
And so those messages were subliminally getting into you. And so you enter teenage, you leave those teenage years and you question, I don't fit the stereotypes. I don't fit the light colored skin. I don't fit the body type that's desirable. So there are deep insecurities, and they're being told that I'm beautiful. And there's such deep insecurities. And so, but you work hard. I was, by the time I finished high school, entered university, academically, accomplished and socially admired. But there is this deep sense of insecurity. And then comes those years, you begin to think of making decisions for relationships, right? And marriage. But then the fact is that these insecurities are fueling these decisions. And in my particular case, right, I thought, I'm of age, I'm 18 and so on. And then here's somebody who comes along and they're giving you the attention, stroking your insecure ego. And now you're now in the group. Now you have a boyfriend. But deep down, I knew that it was a relationship that was not right for me, but I couldn't resist, the attention and that. And so I entered that relationship and wasn't a good one. It ended up in engagement. It was very turbulent. And just a few weeks before the wedding, it was canceled. It was called off.
Just to backtrack a bit.
Yes.
Can you give us a sense of how you met and kind of some of the red flags that you saw but may have overlooked?
It was the end of my first year in university. And he was also a student. He was a year ahead of me. And that's how we met, just on the university campus. And, expressed an interest. And I was flattered. But I instinctively knew that he's not my type.
Right.
I knew that. So red flags, you feel that. And I compare that to jumping ahead a little when I met my husband. There was just such peace. There was such a difference.
There's a peace,
Exactly. So this is not a case where, oh my goodness, I fell head over heels over him and didn't work out. No, that was not my situation. Instinctively, I knew that there was a mismatch there. But I made myself push that aside. It's amazing what you can make yourself do if you work hard enough.
That's true. Yeah, we convinced ourselves.
Yeah, we convinced ourselves, right? And I was deeply insecure. I didn't like being the odd man out. I was the only one in my girlfriend group who didn't have a boyfriend. And so, that peer pressure that you place on yourself.
Right.
So,
and this was 18, right? So this first year.
Exactly. 17 going 18. And that was a red flag. The other thing is just, during the relationship, it was very turbulent. You could tell that there were issues of, just being jealous and possessive. You know, also, you have to also test the waters of the people around you. And this is not to say that in every case you should listen to others. But if you're already feeling that this is maybe not the right thing, and then the people who care about you are kind of showing those signs too, then, you should perhaps pay attention. But it was there. It was very turbulent. And that also is a big red flag as well. But totally just ignore those because I love the attention.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you said it led to the end of the engagement. It was 3 weeks before the wedding date. So what do you think led to that breaking point?
I think fate just took in for me because the dress had been bought, the rings had been bought, everything is coming together. And there was not an explosion, an argument, but I think it was just a change of heart. And in the end, I think it was initiated by him. And I just felt like fate stepped in for me and for us. It was, I remember he had taken a trip, gone out of town for maybe a week or so, and maybe he had time to think about it, right? And, he just said, you know what, I don't think we should go through with this. And it was both a relief and it was painful, the embarrassment, but there was a deep relief as well.
Yes.
And, in knowing that, you're planning a wedding feeling like you shouldn't, but you're going anyway.
Yes.
So it was definitely a sweet, bitter experience there.
It's amazing how you say that you had that peace. I'm still stuck at that peace when you said you had that peace when you finally met your husband now, like your future husband, but you had that peace. And it's so funny you say that because I hear my husband say the same thing about our relationship. But when we're younger and, even throughout life, we normally seek exciting. And we think that falling in love, I don't know, culture, TV, right? Romance books, it's always fireworks, right? And we think there should be like this big excitement, if it's real, but really that peace.
That inner peace.
That inner peace, right? Sometimes it sounds boring. It's not exciting.
It's quiet, but it's profound.
Right.
And it should never be ignored. Yes, it was night and day, and it was just that peace. And it doesn't take long, Keisha.
Yeah.
I find that you don't have to know a person. Oh, I need to know them and know them. I was like, I don't know about that. I know that you can see that, everybody has a different walk. But it doesn't take long to just have that sense of peace within you.
Yeah.
This is right. This one is right. And Keisha, looking back, with the hindsight of maturity, I realized that not having owned my self-worth at the time was really why I opened the door to paying for myself and for him as well. Because, he was a young man. And, when we're young, we're all dealing with insecurities and we're trying to figure ourselves out, right? But if I could do it again, if there's one thing I would say is like, from place of worth, you don't go invest in your emotions are priceless. And so are the emotions of the other person. And so if at any point in time you feel that this is not right, this is, not something you should do, then you should protect the emotions of the other person as well as your own. And say, let's not go down this path just for really reasons that are really frivolous, such as, you want to be in the crowd or it's stroking an insecure part of your ego, right? But really understanding our worth and understanding that our emotions are priceless. Let's not invest it cheaply. And in so doing, we protect others and we protect ourselves. But that's the benefit of self-worth. Until you get there, then you make decisions that are not productive at all.
It's so amazing, Natalie, that like as economists, right, we've been, in our professional lives, looking at different metrics of money and the economy doing well. And it's so amazing when I started this journey on holistic wealth that it dawned on me too that our insecurities, our self-worth is what drives so much of all our decisions. As you mentioned, it's the command center, right? And it goes across the gamut of our decisions, not just spending and relationships, but everything is, like seeking, professional work, as you said, doing more, thinking self-worth is tied to performance. And it's unbelievable how, in terms of when we think of even money and money mindset, so many financial gurus out there, they talk about money and talk about investment, and nobody is tying it to these things that we're talking about. Money mindset tied to self-worth and insecurities and, as an impetus for spending decisions. And I just wanted to to ask you about that because we've talked about the relationship aspect. And as a financial coach, I know that you have some insights with that as well in terms of the self-worth influencing spending decisions and, of course, people going into debt. So if you could talk a bit about that in terms of, your personal story and what you've seen from others and how it just so ties in to that aspect of our lives, that would be great.
Absolutely. Keisha, I've been a financial coach for about 7 years and counting. And I'll always remember, maybe I was about a year and a half, 2 years in my coaching experience. And I just had a light bulb moment. I said, oh my goodness, these financial situations has nothing to do with the money. It's not about money.
Yes. And the money is just a tool that manifests that,
It's just a tool. You're so right. And then as like, in my own terms, I said, my goodness, the money is DNA evidence. It's DNA evidence of what's happening in the life of a person.
Yeah.
Because I thought, I was trained, equipped. So, I think I just inadvertently assumed that to help people along, they just need the right information.
Right.
And then I would give the information, but I found that it was not being embraced and there was something there.
Yeah.
Why is it that now that you have the right information, things are not getting better? But I realized that until the heart issues and the mindset have been addressed, then the excellent information, excellent advice is just going to be going by the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
So I began to realize that self-worth has everything to do with it because when we're continually spending and living beyond our means, we really need to pull back and ask, why am I doing this? Why do I see wants as needs?
Yes.
Why am I buying this? Why do I feel that I need to have all these ornaments of quote unquote success in order to feel like, I've accomplished? And then, of course, there's the other side of it. People are just, they're rescuers. They're running into every situation and they're, giving what they don't have to rescue everyone. And you're wondering, could there be something here? Perhaps the person who needs to be rescued, you're hindering their lessons, their life lessons, because pain is a great teacher. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's the only way people learn, right? So maybe you need to allow them to feel the financial pain so that they can make productive choices later on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe that continual rescuing is this need for love and affirmation. If I'm always the rescuer, then people would appreciate me more and love me more. And you see the whole gamut, right? And it's constantly driving spending decisions. I'm looking out for everybody else's, but what about your own household? Is it financially covered? Do you have insurance that you need? If something were to happen to you as the income earner, is your family okay? Have you taken care of your own household before you're always going out and rescuing others? Mm-hmm. And so, what's driving that? So it was very interesting, Keisha, that I came to realize that, it's not just about knowing good financial advice. It's actually also coming from a place of self-worth. If you're equating your self-worth to your net worth and to the trinkets of success, then you could really be in trouble.
And so it's so important to discuss these stories and talk about our journey so we help people in a practical way to understand what we're talking about. And I know that you also do career coaching and you have a passion for helping people find their purpose because I feel like the insecurities, the self-worth, again, lead people away from their purpose. It leads people, and you mentioned not only the ornaments of success, which is a big factor that also leads people away from their purpose, but also that need and that drive for approval from others, extrinsic approval that drives people away from their purpose. And it's so sad because I think that a large percentage of us, have been there. And for those of us who have enough self-awareness to kind of learn the lessons and realize, no, I'm on a path that I shouldn't be on. And of course, that's why I love conversations and podcast episodes like this, because people can really listen in and think, well, okay, she's right. I'm probably on the wrong path, but you help people find their purpose and uncover their passions in life. How do you think, in terms of your experience, that all these things that we've been discussing, the ornaments of success, the self-worth being the command center and performance to please others, how do you see that manifest in terms of people being led away from their purpose or not being able to then hone in on their true purpose in life?
This is a very tough one, Keisha. And I think within the heart of every human being, we cry for meaning. We cry for meaning. And in helping people to find their purpose, I, at a stage in my life where I'm very passionate about, working with youth. And one of the messages that we really have to embrace is, number one, for example, you're feeling dissatisfied, you feel like you're you're spinning your wheels and you're just showing up to pay the bills, right? But there's no fire, there's no passion, but it's paying the bills. So it almost becomes like you're caught in that sort of conundrum, right? How do you really, I want to pay the bills, but I also want to feel alive and so on. And so one of the things I really point out, and, every career coach will tell you, is that, the passion and your purpose is really written in your DNA. And again, it goes back to understanding, number one, what are those things that make you come alive, and really tuning in. And, yes, we have to be practical and pay the bills, but while you're doing that, is there a way to sort of nurture and begin to cultivate those passions on the side? And how can you turn that around? How can that be monetized? And in doing things that meet your needs, people will always pay you to meet your needs, right? So it is sometimes people, you just get caught up in the things. This is what my parents wanted me to do. This is what was at hand, but I really feel like a shell inside, right? But having the confidence in knowing that we are here for a reason. I always tell young people, you are here to solve problems. There are problems in the world that has your name on it as the solution. So understanding that because you're priceless and your worth is infinite, that you have a purpose. I will say, if you didn't have a purpose, you wouldn't be here, right? And so how do you find what that purpose is? Go within. It's almost sort of knee-jerk to sort of look without, but no, go within first. It's in your DNA. Pay attention. What makes you come alive? What intrigues you? What interests you? What problems out there that you'd say, what, I would love to be a part of that problem to solve it. And then doing what's at hand as well. If there's a problem that's at hand that really interests you, go about it. To use myself as an example, Keisha, I'd always liked writing. Even in high school, I'd always excel in the English language and so on. But little did I know that, communications is something that I was going to be a part of my future. But what I did was to nurture it. And when opportunities will come my way, I would, hey, let's go about that. And little by little, I'm learning, well, how can I monetize this? Writing books that will help people, because at the heart of it, it's all about helping others, right? Exactly. But just having the confidence, I think it's a confidence that we all struggle with. And I'm sure, you and I, we've known each other for a while. We have ideas but can I do it? You're always second guessing. How will this work out? But you keep plugging away at it. Because again, you're being bolstered by the fact that your worth gives you the right to believe that your career, your destiny, your purpose is there, and you will make that difference. And that difference will also take care of you financially, emotionally.
So Natalie, you mentioned earlier in your response, when we spoke about career, we spoke about passion, purpose, especially with young people. But I know people always think about the money aspect of it. About, well, I need to pay the bills. I need to do this. But just wondering from your perspective, your personal journey. I know you took the quiz, the personal financial identity quiz on the Institute on Holistic Wealth website. And I just wanted you to just give us a sense of your results and how you think that has, showed up in your spending philosophy, your investment philosophy, and also just in terms of, how your journey has unfolded so far and how it has evolved up until now.
So the result is I'm a minimalist. And I thought, no surprises there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
I'm totally not the extravagant type. I am the type of person. I'm practical. I see money as a tool, and I see it as a tool to help. Right. So I really don't, especially linked to self-worth and all that. I don't feel the need to to have these ornaments of success. If it's something that I want, I do it. I want to go on a vacation, I go. But I believe in saving for it, and how that has helped me. And in so many ways, you know, how a lot of times you're doing things ahead and you're not really sure, but in looking back, you're like, you know, I think that was wise. And one of the things that my husband and I did early in our careers is that, you know, we lived, we traveled, you know, whenever we want to. We take the kids on great vacations, but we always put aside money to save and invest. And, you know, we invested in real estate. That's one of my passions. And in addition to writing and communications, I love real estate investing. And so, you know, we bought our primary residence, you know, a couple decades ago, and then we leveraged the equity in that and we invested in other types of real estate. And that grew in the market for us. And that is something that we still do. We're always looking at, you know, different sources of income, whether it's passive income, etc. So that minimalist approach, and my husband is even more minimalist than I am, right? You know, that approach, as we look back, it really helped us. One of the things I thought of myself was, I said, you know what? I think we made hay while the sun was shining. And it has really helped us. And we've been able to live out to our children, you know, that example, because, you know, what is caught is often more powerful than what is taught, right? What they see us doing, right? So they see us investing, they see us going to, you know, a rental property and maintaining it as a family, the grounds, you know, whether it's summer, that kind, you know, the winter, that kind of a thing. So they saw us living out where we used what we had. We saved enough so that we could expand and do something else. So we're not just relying on one source of income, you know, that paycheck at the end of the month, but we're diversifying. So I think that perspective really helped us. And it really encouraged us because, you know, we just didn't like debt for the most part. We only entered debt that was, you know, like buying a house is a debt, but it's going to generate income in the future, right? Equity, that kind of a thing. So that is how that approach has helped us. Really, we save for our children's education. Our children are in, you know, tertiary, post-secondary schooling. You know, we're pulling down on those savings. And, you know, we're also saving and investing for retirement. So that has really helped us. And we've been in a position to help others, you know, and that is also very fulfilling. Helping people, that feeling of just knowing that you can help others, it's really good. And we've been able to do that as well. So that minimalist approach has served us well in where we are now. And we encourage others as well to know your style, and whatever style you have, just save for it. There's nothing wrong with extravagant vacations. Save for it. There's nothing wrong with a nice car. Save for it, you know? Don't let it be a burden.
Yeah. You know, it's so funny you say that, Natalie. There's nothing wrong with buying a nice car. I remember when I was working at the Department of Finance Canada as an economist, and I bought a nice car. I remember my boss saying, economists don't buy those cars. And I was like, but, you know, I have that philosophy too, that if it's something you like, save for it, as long as you're not getting into debt for it.
You're not always leveraging other people's money to underwrite your lifestyle. I think that is where the risk is. But whatever you want, you only live once, right?
Yes.
So go on that nice vacation, save for it, you know, buy that nice car, you know, that nice outfit, save for it, right?
Yes.
And so you're not, you know, living on somebody else's pocket, because I always tell my children, that's what credit is. Credit is other people's money. So be careful how much you live off other people's money, because they know they're going to ask for a payment one day.
Yeah, no. And I love from your story how you mentioned taking your sons to also work on, you know, different aspects of the investment properties, teaching them that, you know, this is how you put in that type of sweat equity that you need to have those returns. And I know that, you know, it's a big thing in even, you know, in the broader society with financial literacy, especially for teens. And, you know, it's so funny. When you said you were a minimalist, I thought of Matthew, my eldest teen, who is now 19. He took the personal financial identity quiz years ago when I wrote it, and he was a minimalist then. He was maybe around 13. It has never veered. Wow. You know what I mean?
Yes.
He's still a minimalist. Up to yesterday, my husband and I were talking about him and his minimalist tendencies. And it's unbelievable. I don't think many parents realize how young that, number one, our teens and our kids form money attitudes.
Yes.
And number two, that we need to absolutely hone it, to teach them, to embrace it, to basically walk them through life because it really forms young. So I'm just wondering for you, as we leave lessons for parents going forward for teens, is there anything there that's related to what we're discussing right now that you would say, you know what, I would tell parents XYZ in terms of how they leave certain lessons for their teens?
The idea of the parent and teen workbook, I thought, wouldn't it be good? Because you always have to be thinking of legacy. I always say the reason why they call it the human race is because really it's a relay. It's a passing of the baton, right? And you want to pass that baton well, and you want your child to be able to receive that baton well and run their leg well. And so it is very important that we include children and teach them. Whether we realize it or not, we are teaching them. They are seeing our lifestyle and they're patterning it. And so I'm really passionate about being intentionally bringing parents and teen together in a conversation. And that's the idea behind the workbook. The conversation is mostly around career and exchanging views like, Mom, Dad, what were you good at in high school? What was your first job? How do you know that that's what you want?
Right.
And, what are you good at? What's your, taking that test? So for example, your son took the test. You also take the test and you sit at a table and you discuss your results, right?
Right.
And so there are personality tests involved in the parent and teen workbook. There are skills and talent tests where they get to ask other people, what do you think I'm good at? It is so important that we're intentional. Intentionality is the word about having these discussions, not just about career, but about money as well. And a lot of times, Keisha, we work so hard to provide our children with everything and to shield them from the challenges. But there is wisdom in helping them being a part of the challenge and working out the solutions so that when you are not there, they can remember those transferable skills and those ideas and they can put it into practice. So absolutely. I remember Keisha, for example, we have, one of those laundry facilities, right? And they have coins. And so we collected and we sit down and said, okay, now we're